What's up, guys? It's BenImparts here. Welcome back to yet another episode of this Cryptidcast series, where we break down cryptids, their sightings, their possibilities, what they could or couldn't be, and if they could be real or not. And today, we have an absolutely amazing, interesting cryptid. In fact, it's yet another Lumberjack cryptid. You might have noticed on my channel, I've been doing a lot of stories of Lumberjack cryptids, sightings of Lumberjack cryptids, and they're completely and utterly fascinating to me. They're cryptids that are so outlandish that you think it might almost be impossible for them to be real, but at the same time, little inklings of details think, or rather make you think, that you might have seen something. And today, we are doing a Lumberjack cryptid, or fearsome critter, from Funeral Range, California, and it's known, appropriately, as the Funeral Mountain Terrashot. So what is the Funeral Mountain Terrashot? Well, we find a wonderful description of it in Fearsome Creatures of the Lumberwoods. We find that the creature, quote, has a casket-like body, 6 to 8 feet long, with a shell running the whole length of its back. Its forelegs are wide and wobbly, causing the Terrashot to sway uncertainly from side to side and forward and backward as it travels along. In other words, it's literally like a walking biological coffin with a face. And it even walks in a wooden way, because it's semi-wooden and semi-biological. Well, the wood is its biology. It walks and sways in a way that's kind of unsteady, as if it's not really fully at peace with itself, which obviously it isn't, given the form it's in. But also it is at peace with itself in the sense that it manages to function, to live, and to reproduce, all the while being ungainly like this. So it's definitely got some great intelligence behind its design. And the strange creature was first observed by some Mormon immigrants, and they observed what they described as a peculiar procession entering the desert from a mountain range, which was afterward named the Funeral Mountains. And they also, very cruciously, witnessed the tragic fate of one of the creatures. One of these Mormon witnesses was incredibly fascinated by what he was seeing, as we all would. So he went down to check it out and went to do an investigation. And it seemed from his findings that the animals lived in the little meadows and parks in the higher portions of the range, and it gradually increased in numbers until you went up and up and up, until at some point the creature was motivated by this strange impulse to emigrate. And so these creatures would then form these long processions and march down into the desert, seemingly with the intention of crossing other ranges, maybe migrating like the birds do. We don't know. However, once they enter the hot sands, they actually distend with the heat, and then one another, they blow up. That is, they actually implode with almighty banging sounds, leaving absolutely nothing left in their wake. Literally, absolutely nothing. So, for some reason, much like the myths that lemmings commit suicide by flinging themselves off of cliffs, the Terrashot, in actual real life, does in a sense commit suicide, because it tries to emigrate, it tries to move around, it tries to get to a different place, and it explodes and dies due to the heat. Maybe the heat swells its wood, maybe it's already dried out enough as it is, being made of wood, and it's not compatible, we don't know. But either way, it's definitely fascinating, because on the one level you can't call it suicide because they're trying to emigrate, but on the other hand it is suicidal. And this in turn brings up all of the kind of questions. A, they must have a huge breeding population in order to constantly be committing suicide. B, maybe this is part of their natural cycle of life, because when too many of them saturate the area and too many of them populate the area, this is how they bring the numbers down to avoid overgrazing and deforestation and keep the species alive. C, how intelligent is this creature? And D, does it know, linked to C, that it's actually marching to its death? Much as bumblebees don't seem to know that they're going to die, the male ones, when they mate, maybe the Terrashot doesn't know it's marching to its death. And I'm inclined to believe this, because no animal naturally wants to go to its death. And in fact, you find cows at abattoirs smelling the blood and running away in panic and fear. One cow in Poland actually swam across to an island and is now a wild cow and has been left there on its own. So I don't believe for a second that the Terrashot knows what it's doing is suicidal, but it sure as hell is. But what could this Terrashot be? Now, that's another question, because it was seen by several witnesses, which seems to give it credibility, A. B, they were Mormon witnesses, so they were religiously minded in a great many respects, and so you would think that they would be more honest than the average person. C, it was seen in a remote and inhospitable area where people don't normally go, which are factors in its favour. But then you get to the factors in its disfavour. It was only seen by a select number of people and it's never been seen again. It's an incredibly tall tale of a creature that seems part wooden and part biological, which is never something I've ever seen in history so far. And also, with the amount of suicidal behaviour that clearly goes on among these these creatures, you will think that there wouldn't be that many left, and yet apparently they are meant to be thriving as a population. So what do I think they are? I think it's possible it could be something because of the multiple witnesses, but generally I think overall that the Funeral Mountain Terrashots are probably a tall tale, much like many other lumberjack cryptids. But what do you guys think? Have any of you ever seen a Funeral Mountain Terrashot? Do any of you know of one? Have any of you caught one? Do you have any relatives who've caught one or seen one? Please post those comments in the comment section below. Follow me on Insta, subscribe to my channel, and stay tuned for the next episode.